Brothers, we are beginning the third chapter in the wisdom literature, that is book of Job. Ways of wisdom in the book of Job. Subtitle is rebellion or submission. Under that we have 14 points. Point 1, introduction. Introduction concerning the book of Job, whole book of Job. Then point 2, typical unique characters. So in the book of Job we have a lot of characters, right? Job, his friends, then God himself, then different animals, all these things, okay? And the land, where are they coming from, all that we will study here. Then third point is the other Job elsewhere. Job we know as a suffering one, right? He is just one, but he is suffering. Now we will also see some of the Job-like characters across the world, different parts of the world. We shall see a few, at least 4 of them we will study for our knowledge, just for our knowledge, who suffer innocently. Then fourth point, historical context of the book. So to understand book of Job, we should also know in what context book of Job is written. Always any passage, Bible any passage will have a context. So you have to see a context of a passage. And now we are seeing the context of book of Job. Where and when and why it is written, in what context it is written. That's we are going to see. Then fifth, structure. In a book, every biblical book will follow a structure, will have a structure. So you have to see, as you study biblical books, we will also study structure of a book. We will see here under, whether book of Job has got any structure or simply without structure it is written. Surely there will be a structure. Every book will have a structure, and we are going to see what is the structure of book of Job. Sixth point, question of book's unity. Now here we are going to study, we will study whether book of Job is a one unit or it has got like book of Proverbs, other units, different units put together and stitched into one book or compiled into one book. We are going to see that one, whether book of Job is one single unit or different parts put together and made into a or compiled into a book. That we are going to see. Then chapter 7, Job, guilty or innocent. Under this point, we will study whether really Job is innocent and because of innocence he is struggling, or he has done some guilt, whether he has committed something, or whether he has not understood something and therefore he is questioning God. We will study all that matter under this 7th point. And point 8, God's first speech. There are 2 speeches of God. God speaks, Job responds. Second speech, God second time speaks, Job responds. Now under point 8, we are going to see the content of God's first speech. And under point 9, we are going to see the content of God's second speech and Job's response. And point 10, here we are going to see where does evil come from? There is evil. Job is suffering because of the evil. And if God is the creator of everything, from where does evil come from? Is it from God or is it from somewhere else? That is the topic we are going to study. Very theological point, this one, concerning the book of Job. Then point 11, man is not the center of the world. Book of Job makes for us it clear that man is not the center of the world. From the God's speech, we will come to know that man is not the center of the world. That point we are going to study. Now why man is not the center of the universe and why there are so many other things and all that. Then point 12, God fights against evil. The point we see, God fights against evil. Then 13th point, accept the incomprehensible. under book of Job, under point 13, we'll read so many things we don't understand. Therefore, we have to accept some things which we do not understand. Finally, 3 other ways to overcome the crisis of wisdom. Already I told you in the beginning, book of Proverbs stands and proclaims the theory of doctrine of retribution. Doctrine of retribution, I have been telling you, okay? Good will be punished, good will be blessed, and evil will be punished. So this is the doctrine of retribution. So the effect, sow the cause, sow the effect. You sow what you reap. You reap what you sow. Okay? So that's it. Cause and effect. Doctrine of retribution proposed by book of Proverbs. And now book of Job questions it. Do all those who do good really have blessings? Do all the evil, the perverted, will be punished? From the practical experience, book of Job raises a question. So that's what we are going to answer in chapter, in the last point, that is chapter point 14. There, other ways. What are the other ways? 3 other ways. 3 other ways are proposed for us to overcome the problem of theory of divine retribution. So this is the gist. This is in gist book of Job. I think I have presented you something, and we'll go ahead. We'll go ahead with this. Now, concerning the introduction, like any other or previously what you have seen, book of Proverbs, like book of Proverbs, book of Job doesn't have the content of the salvation history, which means Pentateuchal language. Book of Job doesn't use a Pentateuchal language. You are elected, you are chosen, you are blessed. So nothing of that sort. Neither prophetical language. So you have done something now, thus says the Lord, convert or turn you from your evil ways, do good, you will live, and all that. No, that kind of language we will not hear. So what the language we have here is a wisdom language. Wisdom language speaking from the concrete life experience of the people. Okay, this is what book of Proverbs is in common with other books of wisdom. So as already I have told you, the wisdom contained in Proverbs expresses the doctrine of divine retribution or theory of divine retribution in chapters 10 and 15 that we have seen. One will reap what he sows. This is what? Or one who do good will succeed. If he does bad, he will be punished. So this is what? Now book of Job raises question. Likewise book of Koheleth or Ecclesiastes. So these 2 books raises question. For now we are going to see book of Job. What are the questions he raises? So book of Job questions what is said is so far in the book of Proverbs. So this is what, by way of introducing book of Job. Now coming to second point, the typical unique characters of Job. Typical unique characters of Job. The character of Job. He is not an Israelite. Why? Because the book of Job would say, book of Job would read, we shall open, is not an Israelite, we said, right? Yeah. The book of Job itself says he is not an Israelite. Please open your Bibles and see. Book of Job, chapter 1, verse 1. There was once a man in the land of Uz, whose name was Job. Now, there was once a man in the land called Uz. His name is Job. Now, where is a place called Uz? Where is the place called Uz? That is our content. For that we shall see Lamentations 4 verse 21. Please open the book Lamentations 4 verse 21. Please read. Lamentations is just after Jeremiah, Prophet Jeremiah. Rejoice and be glad, O God of Israel. You that live in the land of Uz,
Yeah.
to you also the cup shall pass.
Yeah.
You shall become drunk.
Yeah, that's enough. That is enough. 21 verse 21 would read, "Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom." What it says? Edom. So where is Uz? In the country called Edom. Now Edom is a different country, and in that particular country there is a city called Uz, and in that particular city Uz, our gentleman Job was living. So this is the content. This is what we hear about man Job. Now I would like to give little information concerning land of Edom and Israel and all that. Now Isaac has two sons, right? Patriarch Isaac has got two sons. Chandu, right? Patriarch Isaac has two sons, right? Who are they? Name it. Isaac two sons. Jacob one, Esau, two of them. Now, please, control. So these people of Israelites are sons of Jacob. Jacob's name is later transformed into Israel, right? Israel. Now, sons of Jacob are Israelites. Sons of Esau are Edomites. Now, Israel is one country, Edom is another country. So they are cousins. Now, concerning the land of Edom, Edom is a land of wisdom. Edom is a land of wisdom. Lot of wise people are there in wisdom. That's what we have read in the Lamentations 4:21. So therefore, Job comes from Edom, which is a part of Arabia. Geographically, Arabia is divided into three regions. Whole land of Arabia. Arabia is the eastern side of Palestine, land of Palestine, where these Israelites are living. So eastern side is Arabia. So Arabia land is three geographically it is divided. First one, Arabia Felix. Second one, Arabian Desert. Third, Arabian Petra. I do not know now whether it still continues as one of the wonders of the world. Arabian Petra is wonders of the world. All red rocky hills like. Okay, that's Arabian Petra or Nebatia they call it, whatever it is. Now Arabia Felix is a fertile land. Lot of fertile grounds are there. Then in the center part is Arabian Desert, and at the north side is Arabian Petra, what we have said. Now Job comes from Arabia Felix, that is from fertile land. Book of Job we will read, he has got lot of sheep and cattle and lot of animal stock. Animal stock cannot live in desert, right? Therefore we understand he lives in the Arabian Felix. Okay. Then coming to the meaning of Job. The meaning of Job in Hebrew has got three meanings. First one, where is my father? First meaning is, where is my father? Second one is, one who creates hostility. First meaning is, where is my father? Second meaning is, one who creates hostility. Third meaning is, he who is hostile. First meaning is, where is my father? Second one is, one who creates hostility. Third meaning is, he who is hostile. So, according to the content of the book of Job, third meaning is proper. Third meaning would be suitable to the book of Job. Now, what is the meaning of book of Job? One who is hostile. Fine. Now, coming to, we have other characters. We are seeing typical unique characters in the book of Job. And his friends. We are going to see his friends. Job has got 3 friends, and finally another man, Elihu, comes from somewhere, nowhere. And first one we shall see. We shall read. Yeah. Job chapter 2 verse 11. Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all the things, all these troubles that had come upon him, each of them set out from his home. First one, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. They met together to go and console and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they did not recognize him, and they raised their voices and wept aloud. They tore their robes and threw dust in the air upon their heads. They sat with him on the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. So this is the depiction of 3 friends arriving. Now let us see friends each one. Eliphaz the Temanite. The word Eliphaz has Arabic version. Therefore, Eliphaz is a countryman. And where is he coming from? He is coming from Teman. Now, where is Teman? Teman is the capital city of Edom. So, Job comes from a country Edom, but he is from Uz, land of Uz. Eliphaz comes from Teman, that is the capital city of Edom, which means they are countrymen, same country. Now, geographically, where this land of Teman is situated? The country of Teman is situated, or the land of Teman or the land of Edom is situated south of Israel, south side of Israel. So, already I told you, Edom is a land of wise men. Therefore, a wise man, namely Eliphaz, comes to see his friend and console him, that is Job. Okay? Eliphaz comes to meet his friend Job, who is in great distress and is a wise man. We should take into consideration. And the second man, Bildad the Shuhite. Shuha is one of the Bedouin Arabian tribal name, or one of the tribes' name is Shuha. Bildad is coming from Shuha. So probably, where already I told you, Arabia is the eastern side of Israel. Did I say? I told you, Arabia is on the eastern side to Israel. Therefore, the Bildad represents wisdom of east. So when he talks to Job, who is suffering, who is struggling as an innocent man, so whatever Bildad speaks, he represents the wisdom of the east. The next one is Zophar the Naamathite. Zophar the Naamathite. You know from the second book of Kings concerning Naaman the Syrian. We have the description about the Naaman the Syrian comes for a cure from prophet Elisha, right? Yeah. So Naamathite is one of the cities of Syria. Syria's capital city is Damascus. So it is this particular land called Syria is north side of Israel. So therefore, Zophar represents the northern wisdom. He comes to meet Job and console him and talk to him. So whatever Zophar speaks to Job, he is representing the wisdom of north. Now we see a wise man from north, namely Zophar. A wise man from east, namely Bildad. A wise man from south, namely Eliphaz. So, from three directions. So, it is an international discourse. International intellectualism, international wisdom thinking is going on. Book of Job represents an international wisdom. So, these three friends together with Job, they are discussing on what matter? Innocent suffering. They are discussing on the matter? Innocent suffering. So, an international congress is going on to discuss on the matter of innocent suffering. Yeah. Now we'll come to the point, other Jobs elsewhere. Other Jobs elsewhere. Third point. It's not the book of Job that represents or talks about innocent suffering, but across the world there are so many intellectual thinking is going on concerning the innocent suffering. Now one such thing is called a Babylonian Job. First one is a Babylonian Job. We said already, here we are going to see at least 4 personalities like Job who are suffering. First one is a Babylonian Job. So, what is this Babylonian Job? There is a poem addressed to Lord of Wisdom. This Babylonian Job, a poem coming from 8th century. It's been addressed, this poem is addressed to the Lord of Wisdom. The content of the poem is this. There was an officer who was put among the slaves. Now he cries out, he raises his voice. He complains, let's see what he says. He thinks he is right. The official who is put among the slaves, he thinks he is right. He never neglected God. He always made sacrifices to God and taught others to fear God. Now such a man with integrity and credibility, he is put among the slaves. Now he raises question, why as an innocent man I am suffering? Why I am taken away from my post and put among the slaves? This is an international, another Job, like we can't call Job actually, but otherwise Job. But at the end, finally, in this, or in the Babylonian poem concerning an official, Babylonian poem on to the Lord of Wisdom, there it reads, or he finally thinks, the official thinks, who will know the intentions of God? I might have sinned, which has escaped from my mind, and God has noted that. Therefore I am suffering. So now, Babylonian Job, what is his final conclusion? No one will know the intentions of God. God sees everything. Therefore, I might have sinned in some way. Therefore, I am suffering. Now, what the Babylonian Job is trying to say? Just will experience blessing, wicked will perish. Now, right now, I am suffering, therefore, I might have sinned. So, this is his conclusion. Now, this is the proposition of divine retribution, wisdom thinking. Proverbs also say same thing. Now, Book of Job questions. Now coming to a Sumerian Job, second person, Sumerian Job. It's coming from 2nd millennium. Sumerian Job. A Sumerian Job's life story, just like our Job here, he innocently suffers. But finally he concludes, he thinks, never a child is born without fault. Never a child is born without fault. No one ever seen a worker without sin. So this is his conclusion. An innocent who is suffering, he says, I am suffering, therefore because I have sinned. I may not know the sin that I have done. But he says, never a child comes into the world without sin. That is his conclusion. As an young man, as an adult, as a knowing man, I may have not done anything, but my birth itself would have been the cause of a sin. So, as God says, no, I will punish, or there will be punishment for those of you up to 4 generations. The sin of the fathers will be punished up to 4 generations. So the thought goes in that line. He also says, never a worker without sin. Right? You will see. You will know better. Okay, you will know. They do a lot of mistakes here and there. Lot of mismanagement they do. We know it, right? Will a worker without a sin? You will ever find him? Very rarely. Very rare. There are. We can't say no, but there are. But generally, all make some kind of here and there mismanagement. Therefore, they are guilty. They are not guiltless. Then third one is 8th century Gautama Buddha or Indian Job. We know very well the life of Siddhartha. Is born in a kingly family, and on his birth, and the temple pundits have told it's that either he will be a great king or a great sannyasi, an enlightened person. So his parents do not want him to become great enlightened person. Therefore, they protected him such a way that he wouldn't know everything around him. Everything is beautiful and fine, and okay, he is not allowed to go out of his kingly palace, so that otherwise he will see lot of sorrow and all that. So once he happened, it seems a dead person's body is being carried, and he happened to see, and he starts questioning why man dies. Why there is lot of suffering? He questions. Yeah, you know it better. So therefore, he starts thinking, and therefore he proposes Tripitakas. Okay, whole human life is full of suffering, sorrow, right? He says. Therefore, to satiate the suffering, we should be desireless. Okay, so desire is the cause of every sin. Therefore, you kill the desire, so there is no sinless. You remain sinless. So that's what is teaching. So we know better about Buddha. Now we have another one, again from India. Satya Harishchandra. You might have heard about this legendary figure. Satya Harishchandra. So about him, Aitarenya Brahmana, Mahabharata, Ramayana, Devi Bhagavata. So these are the 4 classical Indian epic stories, and in these classical books, the life of Satya Harishchandra is written. He is a legendary Indian king of Ikshvaka dynasty. He is a legendary king of Ikshvaka dynasty. So about him, Markandeya Purana says, he gave away his kingdom, sold his wife and children, because he made a promise. Because of his great respect to truth, he had to undergo lot of suffering. Selling wife and children causes a lot of suffering, right? And he suffers because he has made a promise. And we have somebody like that. Okay? So many. Shiva Chakravarti, right? We know about Shiva Chakravarti. What he has done? Yeah, there was once a falcon and a dove, and falcon was hunting the dove, and it wants to eat. It's hungry. Now both of them come to the king. Is that the story? Have you read anywhere somewhere about Shiva Chakravarti? No. In your School ages, no, you never read. These are the moral stories we were given in the classes. Early childhood, like say below 5th class or after 5th class, something below 10th class anyway, 8th, 9th, below 8th, 9th. These were the stories, moral stories that we were made to study. Okay, however it is. Didichi, another monk who has given his backbone as a weapon to Lord Indra to fight against Rakshasas. So these are the mythical stories, lot of stories are there. However, we know these are the people who suffer, who have experienced suffering innocently of not their own mistake. So these are the, so it's not Job. There is an international level. By reading all these 4 historical persons or legendary or mythical persons, we come to know that the question of innocent suffering is a very serious issue in the international level. Now with that in mind, we'll come back to the structure of the book of, the context of, the historical context of book of Job. We'll take a break and